tax versus capital gains, what they exactly are and how are they different from each other. Income tax and capital gain taxes are both direct taxes, but they are levied in a different manner and on different sources of income. In this video, we will understand their meaning and their basic differences. So watch the video till the end to get a thorough understanding. Hello and welcome. I'm Jyoti Arora, a tax expert from Clear. As you all know, Clear is India's largest tax and financial services platform where we have served more than 6 million plus return filers. But before we begin, I have an exciting announcement for you. We have a free giveaway for our new subscribers, which is a comprehensive guide for income tax returns for financial year 2021 that will help you with any basic doubts you may have about return filing. To claim it, subscribe to our channel and you'll find the link in the description box below. So let's start. We all pay taxes in two forms, direct and indirect. When you buy a chocolate or a packet of chips, you pay taxes even on your purchases. This is a kind of indirect tax. Whereas we also have to pay tax on our income like salaries, profit from business, any interest income earned, etc. This is known as income tax, which is a form of direct tax. We will understand the meaning of income tax and capital gain tax one by one. Income tax is a form of direct tax and it is levied according to the rules laid down under the Income Tax Act 1961. There are 23 chapters, 298 sections and 14 schedules in this act, and it is applicable to all citizens of India. The Income Tax Department makes amendments to this act from time to time. Major changes in this act are made in the Union Budget, which is presented by our Finance Minister. Income tax categorizes income into 5 heads, namely salary, house property, business and profession income, capital gains, and other sources of income. The Act provides the manner in which aggregate of all 5 heads of income is calculated. From this income, expenditures and deductions that are allowed by the Act can be claimed. For instance, the deduction of amount invested in Provident Fund, ELSS that is Equity Linked Savings Scheme, NPS that is National Pension Scheme is allowed under Section 80C limit of Rs 1.5 lakhs. Also, the deduction is allowed for medical insurance paid by the taxpayer for self, spouse, children and parents. Now, the residual income after claiming the eligible expenditure and deduction is known as net taxable income. Next, what you have to do is check if the residual income, that is the net taxable income, is above the basic exemption limit. So what is basic exemption limit? The basic exemption limit is the amount of income threshold below which the taxpayer is not required to pay any taxes. For instance, if you are salaried and aged below 60 years, then you have to pay tax only if your salary is more than Rs 2.5 lakh. Accordingly, the threshold, that is the basic exemption limit, is different for those above 60 and 80 years. If the taxpayer's income is more than the basic exemption limit, then the taxes are to be paid according to the income tax slabs. So the next question is, what are income tax slabs? Income tax slabs are the tax rates applicable to different range of income. The rate of tax increases as there is increase in income. This is also known as progressive taxation, which levies higher taxes on people earning a higher income. Let's see the tax slab for individuals who are below the age of 60 years. Tax rate is nil if the income is below the basic exemption of Rs 2.5 lakh. It is 5% if the income is more than 2.5 lakh but less than 5 lakh, 20% for income between 5 lakh to 10 lakh, and 30% if the income is above Rs 10 lakhs. Education and higher education cess is also levied at 4% on this final tax liability. This was a brief about Income Tax Act and the basic rules of tax. You must have got some basic understanding of income tax by now. If yes, then please comment clear in the comment section below. Now let's see what is capital gain tax. Capital gain tax is also a form of direct tax. In fact, it is one of the heads of the income tax amongst the 5 income heads, just as we saw before, right? So to put it simply, capital gain tax is a subset of income tax. capital gains is applicable to the income earned from the sale of capital asset defined by the Income Tax Act. Now, the capital assets mainly include house property, gold and jewelry, shares and securities, mutual fund units, bonds, etc. Also, the rights of management or legal rights over any company can also be considered as capital assets. However, there are few things which are not considered as capital asset, and hence any income earned from them will not be taxed under the capital gains head. Income from these things can be taxed under any other head of income. So what are these? Let's see. First, any stock, consumables or raw materials that are held for the purpose of business or profession. Now, when you sell them, you already pay taxes under business and profession head, so they are not taxed under the capital gains head. Second, goods such as clothes or furniture that are held for personal use. Third, land for agriculture in any part of rural India. Fourth, special bearer bonds that were issued in 1991. Fifth, gold bonuses issued by the central government under the 6.5% gold bonus of 1977, 7% gold bonus and defense gold bonus of 1980. Sixth, gold deposit bonds that were issued under the gold scheme or deposit certificates that were issued under the gold monetization scheme 2015. Now, when you understand what all assets are considered as capital asset, let us see their tax implications. A capital gain arises when the investor makes net profit after selling a capital asset, which means that the sale price of such capital asset is more than its purchase price. These gains are taxable under the capital gain tax head. The capital gain tax is further divided into two categories: short-term capital gain tax and long-term capital gain tax. So what are these? The short-term and long-term gain classification is made according to the holding period of the asset. If the asset is sold for profit within a certain holding period from its acquisition, then it is called as short-term capital gain. Whereas if it is sold for profit after the specified period, then it is regarded as long-term capital gain tax. Now, the Income Tax Act has specified different holding periods and different tax rates for different asset classes. To make it simple for you, we will further classify the capital assets into three classes. First, immovable property, for example, land, building, real estate properties, etc. Second, listed securities, which include equity shares, bonds, debentures listed on recognized Indian Stock Exchange, units of UTI, equity-oriented mutual funds, and zero coupon bonds. Third, other capital assets like gold, jewelry, debt mutual funds, liquid funds, etc. are covered here. Now let us see how are these asset classes taxed through a table. For immovable property, the holding period is 24 months, that is 2 years. If the immovable property is held for less than 2 years, then it is considered as short-term asset, and any gains from selling the short-term property will be classified as short-term capital gains. On the contrary, if the property is sold after 2 years of holding, then any gains are considered as long-term capital gains. Short-term gains is taxable according to the individual slab rates, whereas long-term gains on immovable property are taxable at 20% plus cess, which comes to 20.8%. Indexation benefit is also available on long-term capital gains on immovable property. Now, indexation is a method by which cost of a long-term asset is increased to give the effect of inflation over the years of holding. We will understand its concept and calculation later in this video. Next asset class is listed securities. Less than 1 year of holding for listed securities is considered as short-term, and more than 1 year is considered as long-term. Short-term gains are taxable at flat 15% plus cess, whereas long-term gains on listed securities are exempt up to rupees 1 lakh, and they are taxable at 10% if the gains exceed rupees 1 lakh. No indexation benefit is available for the long-term capital gains of listed securities. Last asset class, which is movable property, include gold, jewelry, debt mutual funds, liquid mutual funds, etc. Any holding for less than 3 years for these assets is considered as short-term, and more than 3 years is considered as long-term. short-term gains are taxed according to the slab rate, whereas long-term gains are taxable at 20% plus cess with the indexation benefit. Now, as you see, the only difference between immovable property and other movable assets is the holding period. Immovable property has 2 years threshold, whereas movable property has 3 years threshold. Tax rate in both of these asset classes is same. Now let us see how to calculate the capital gains. For this, first let us understand these terms. Full value of consideration. Now this is the consideration that is received by the seller in return of the capital asset. Second, cost of transfer. Now this includes cost incurred which is directly related to the transfer of the asset. Third, cost of acquisition. This is the value of the asset when the seller has first acquired the asset. Now, cost of improvement, this is the amount of expenses incurred by the seller in making any additions or alterations to the capital asset. Now, to calculate the capital gain, the full amount of consideration is required to be determined at first. From this obtained value, cost of transfer, cost of acquisition and cost of improvement are to be deducted. The resultant value will be the capital gains on investments. Now, let us understand the concept of indexation. As we had discussed before, indexation is used to give the effect of inflation to the cost of the long-term asset other than listed shares. The indexed cost of acquisition can be estimated as the ratio of the cost inflation index, that is CII, of the year when the asset was sold by the seller and that of the year when the property was acquired, or the financial year 2001 or 2, whichever is later, multiplied by the cost of acquisition. Suppose a person has acquired an asset at rupees 50 lakh in a financial year 2004-5 and she has decided to transfer the property in the year 2018-19, then the CII of the financial year 2004-5 and 18-19 were 113 and 280 respectively. Therefore, the indexed cost of acquisition will be 50 into 280 divided by 113, which will be rupees 123.89 lakh. Now, indexed cost of improvement is also calculated in the similar manner. In place of purchase cost, improvement cost is considered, and in place of CII of the year of acquisition, CII of the year of improvement is taken. The taxpayers can claim exemption from the capital gain income under sections 54 to section 54F. Now, these sections generally allow exemption from capital gains to the extent of reinvestment made in another capital asset. For instance, section 54 allows exemption from capital asset of sale of a residential property if the taxpayer purchases another residential property within the specified time. Now, there are other conditions which are also to be fulfilled if you want to claim exemption under these sections. So if you have earned capital gains, then you should know about these exemptions and how you can benefit from them. Let us know if you want a detailed video on this in the comment section below. This was long and short brief of the capital gain taxes. Now let's see the basic difference between income tax and capital gain tax. Now, if you talk about type of taxes, as we had mentioned earlier, both are direct form of taxes as they are levied directly on the income. Next, income tax is applicable on all the income earned, which is classified in the 5 heads by the Act, whereas capital gain is applicable only on the sale of the capital asset as defined by the Act. Now, income tax is levied according to the tax slabs except income from capital gains, whereas capital gains have different tax rates applicable according to their asset class and holding period. Whereas, as we have seen, that short-term capital gains are also taxable according to the tax slabs. Now, if we talk about basic exemption limit, then it is available for all the incomes. Even capital gain income get the benefit of absorption of the basic exemption limit. In case of deductions and exemptions, all the income are subject to deductions under Chapter 6A, whereas exemptions against capital gain income can be claimed only through sections 54 to 54F, which allows exemption on reinvesting of the income in eligible assets. This was all about income tax versus capital gains, and that's all for today's video. Thank you for watching it. Hope the video was helpful to you. If you have any questions regarding this, then please ask us in the comment section below. Also, do like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more such informative videos. Do not forget to claim the free gift by subscribing to our channel. The link is in the description box. Stay tuned for more such updates. Take care. Bye bye.